Welcome to another exciting and elucidating episode of the Omni Talk Ask an Expert series. I'm your host, Chris Walton.
And I'm Mezzenga.
And we are the founders of Omni Talk, the fast-growing retail blog that is all about the companies, the technologies, and the people that are coming together to shape the future of retail. Or as we like to say, the series that focuses on tomorrow's companies today. I can never get enough of saying that, Ann.
I know, I can tell.
I know, but our discussion today, Ann, plans to be about buy now, pay later, the trend that is front and center, even more so than ever before. But today, we're going to talk about the trend in terms of what it means for in-store shopping and how retailers can easily bring the buy now, pay later functionality into stores for their customers. And believe it or not, it's a hell of a lot easier than you think. So joining us for the first time ever on Omni Talk, though he's a loyal friend of the show and someone we've talked to quite often over the past few years, is probably one of the first and foremost experts on the topic of using buy now, pay later in stores. And that is Sezzle's VP of Growth, Chris Bixby. Chris, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Excited to talk a little bit more with you too, and having gotten to know you the last couple of years and followed Omni Talk. It's an honor to be on the show and I guess referred to as an expert, which I guess you need to check your expertise definition. But yeah, super excited to be here and talk with you both.
That's always fun. You can go home and tell your wife that you are an expert at something when you get done with this program.
See how that goes over.
Yeah, right. Honey, I'm an expert.
Yeah.
All right. Now, just a quick reminder before we get started, for those watching the early release of this interview live on LinkedIn, please feel free to ask your questions of Chris at any time via the chat session window on the lower right-hand side of your screen. And please, please, please don't be shy and don't be afraid to get technical either, because that is why we're all here together to learn from each other. So, Ann.
Yes. Well, Chris, before we get started here, you guys have been in the headlines this last week. Pretty big new updates. You want to share those with our listeners?
Sure. And everything is publicly available, but I'm super excited to comment that we are super excited about a release that came out about a merger with Zip, which is another buy now, pay later company within our ecosystem. We think we both have, phenomenal cultures, phenomenal products, and we're really excited about that, strategic fit between us and what we can do in the U.S. market and globally. So the whole team is super excited about things. We've known the company for a while. Larry and the team over there are really strong, and it's a great outcome for Sezzle.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here, Chris, to talk today. You're one of the biggest, buy now, pay laters in the space, but I wanted to have you talk about buy now, pay later specifically. We're here to have you talk about that in stores and why that is so important. So let's start it off with kind of that topic. Why does the team at Sezzle feel like this is really important for retailers to be considering right now?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I'm glad we're talking about it and kind of diving into this. BNPL is a product, has been around for about 4 or 5 years now in the US, globally a little bit longer with, the Zips and Afterpays and Klarnas of the world. But where we've seen really, terrific results in the US over the last couple of years has primarily been through the e-commerce channel. And, most of our integrations and most of the rollouts within BNPL has been primarily e-commerce focused because of the ease of integration, a digitally first younger generation of consumers. And then ultimately it solves a pain point for retailers, which is converting customers at checkout, plus increasing AOVs and order frequency. And so it's been a phenomenal fit within e-commerce. But really as a payment type and basically as a, payment product has evolved, all the things that have really stayed true to why, BNPL exists and the pain point it solves can really be rolled out omni-channel. And so, as 30 million American or users we've seen in the US, according to payments, started using this product, they've also started demanding it in store to solve that pain point and get access to, a little bit of credit. And so the in-store approach makes a lot of sense as this next evolution, this next step. Still about 90% of shopping is done in store. Obviously that changed a little bit post-COVID. It might have flattened out at maybe 85%, but still a predominant shopping is in store. And so we look at this as another payment type, that consumers care about, they need, they want. And so we should be really offering it through, a retail solution that covers our large kind of omni-channel retailers.
Right. Makes sense. I mean, and it's exploding online. the ability to pay in easy installments, interest-free, exploding online, large volume of retail still done in stores. How do we get this in store? So I think conceptually it makes total sense, which is why we've probably had the audience, interest in this discussion that we've had leading up to it on LinkedIn. But Chris, let's get down to brass tacks, because that's what we do best at Omni Talk. We call it like it is, try to, sort through all the BS that's out there. But how do you actually do this? Like, how do you make this come to life for the retailer, especially for the consumer? Like, how easy is it for the consumer to use this in store?
Yeah, we think it's just as easy as online. And I think that's been the nice evolution of the product. And so the way it actually works, like you said, getting right down to it, is it works through a wallet, basically an app, a Sezzle app that issues a virtual card that can be then used in store, just like any other card that's been pushed to either an Apple or Google Wallet. So we transact via NFC readers, so near field communications, that allows us to push that virtual card into, issue the virtual card in the Sezzle app. And then at that point, actually push that into the wallet. And at that point, it's as easy as tapping at checkout. And so, with a Target, for example, or a GameStop or a Pure Hockey, assuming they have NFC readers, which they do, anytime that I go into those stores, I can use Sezzle by simply tapping. And so the sign-up process is the same. It's about 4 steps, online or in store. And the only nuance there is, instead of selecting Sezzle as a payment button at checkout online, you basically push that virtual card into your virtual wallet and check out.
Okay, and so that he made that sound really simple. It sounds like all the retailer needs is to have NFC enabled to read the card.
Right.
And Chris, we're going to make you sweat here, actually, because we're going to show you, the audience, how easy it is to do this, given what you just said. So we're going to put this to the test, because what you just described sounds so simple. But Anne is going to sign up for the Sezzle virtual card right now with all of us watching online.
Yeah, and so I'll just kind of walk through from. So the account sign-up process takes about a minute. Be ready to grab a card in terms of a payment type. Most customers are repaying us for that first type in terms of using a debit card. And so it's a 4-step process in terms of download, create an account, and then add a tender repayment type. And at that point, you'll be able to get issued a virtual card within your app. So I don't know, Anne, if you're a current Sezzle user or not. For current Sezzle users, it's basically instantaneous is always a tough word, but very, very quick in terms of getting that virtual card. A new sign-up process is about a minute, a little bit over a minute. So
now I have a Sezzle card that has a balance on it that it looks. I can add this to my Apple Wallet right now. I can just go there and. So essentially just take this up to my NFC reader at any store and tap to pay, and I'm out.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm glad it was as hopefully quick as we all thought it would be. That's really, really exciting to kind of see kind of right away. At that point you have that card. That card number is unique to your account. Very cool.
I'm good to go. I can go stock up on whatever kinds of things my little heart desires in pretty much any store. It shows me all the stores too that I can apply this card like right there in the app too. So that's really cool.
One of the things we think is important about that is, again, we are thinking about kind of that line at checkout and trying to get consumers through that. And so one of the things that we're doing with this card is that, because it's what we call a persistent use or multi-use card, it actually can be used multiple times. It doesn't have to be reissued every time a customer or guest goes to checkout. And so the nuance there is, in some cases, we see single-use cards and they have to be reissued. This is actually all tied back to the overall credit limit of the consumer, which we think is a really good benefit and truly promotes kind of omni-channel shopping.
And so, Chris, explain for me too, because, say that I do have this loaded into my Apple Wallet. It's my default method of payment. Say my limit's $300. How does the payment structure or breakout work from the customer's perspective then? Am I just paying, I spend, let's say $200 that day. It starts installments based on that total amount that I spent that day, or is it broken up into each retailer that I'm shopping with? The payments are broken up that way.
Yeah, we track it down to the actual individual and unique transaction.
Okay.
And so it's at the specific transaction. So if you go shop at, Bass Pro Shop, and then you go shop again at Target later that day, or you go back to Bass Pro Shop, each individual transaction will be tracked across a payment plan.
Got it.
And so it's 25% at the time of checkout or the time of purchase, and then 25 2 weeks later, 25% 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and then 6 weeks.
Got it.
And so again, it all ties back to that individual. I want this or I need this. And so that plan is based on that individual, piece that's purchased or the checkout basket. What we do though is we start a limit. So, and you said $300, that is a starting limit for us. And so assuming good repayment behavior, that limit will automatically grow in the background. And so if you make that first initial purchase, $200, you pay it off. And then next month you need to go buy something else. When you log back into your account, you'll probably see a new limit that's actually higher than that 300. So we automatically do that in the back end. That allows us to essentially use, AI and different underwriting to look at that consumer when they shop. And so where we look at in-store transactions and why this is a great fit is frequency increases and repeat rates increase quite a bit. And that actually means that consumer is going to have better availability in terms of kind of how they can check out.
What does the retailer have to do to integrate this or set up this capability?
For the in-store component, it's actually really easy. It's always easier said than done, but it's really easy in terms of essentially one thing is needed, and it's the merchant IDs that are at the individual and unique stores. And so what we do is we turn on the MIDs that can be accepted or can accept this virtual card. And so what we get from our retailers when we sign an agreement and get to commercial terms is we get that list of MIDs, and that's really it. And so the retailer doesn't have to do anything. It's always nice to do training. We offer training, we offer in-store materials, we offer train the trainer. And all that support in terms of the education of the store associates and also how it works. But it's actually not even needed. There's several times where a customer will come in who's a Sezzle customer, use their card, and the associate actually doesn't even know how they're using that card because it's such a seamless kind of checkout with the with the NFC reader. And so we just need the MIDs. We need an agreement. We basically turn it on.
And so when they turn this on with you too, then they're getting access to, well, it's probably more now. I mean, I remember, in preparing for this interview, it's probably more, it's like, you guys have like 9 million customers in your file, right? So like the retailers in essence, if they're turning this on for their store location, are getting access or a different way to communicate to those 9 million customers of yours, right?
Yeah, it gives them a chance to kind of be shown in that app as you were going through and kind of looking at your stores earlier within that app experience. It gives us a point of communication. It gives us a chance and basically a marketing channel to kind of advertise the retailers, within the app, within the customer, within our emails, within, social, et cetera, to actually build awareness of our user base. And, our user base is a little bit different than Gen Pop in terms of it's younger, it's a little less credit worthy. But we also think we have a great user base that, does shop and needs to shop and budget their payments. And so it kind of gives access in a way and promotion in a way that we think is pretty cool, for the retailers.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, and it's kind of like how, God, it's so fascinating how like digital marketing is evolving here too, because, you got the retailer, the physical retailer tapping into the online base of almost an affiliate, so to speak.
Right. And
using that affiliate to bring them in to the store or to transact through the app itself, potentially, like you're seeing all the buy now, pay later people do. It's giving a whole nother element to affiliate marketing in a lot of ways too. Chris, do you guys think about it like that? Do you think of this as a new form of affiliate marketing, so to speak?
Yeah, we think of it as a traffic driver, I think is a great way.
Right.
And when you say affiliate, that's a different way to even think about it too, where, affiliate typically is, someone promotes a brand and a retailer and sends traffic. And we, that very similar with this virtual card piece and this virtual card in-store piece. It's essentially a traffic driver that, we can send traffic to stores, through a digital experience, which can be really powerful for retailers to think of this as almost an affiliate traffic driving program.
Yeah, especially with the tab like right in the app right there. Where am I right now? What other stores, what other errands can I run? All, without having to pull out another form of payment or do anything differently. I think it's really smooth how you guys have got that set up. I'm curious, Chris, what you guys are seeing from retailers in terms of sales. You mentioned earlier that retailers see an increased AOV when people are using buy now, pay later online, but what are they seeing in store?
Yeah, we're seeing primarily results, or kind of the resulting metrics that we're seeing are primarily around repeat usage. And so we just published an article within payments, or kind of they published us around that we're seeing about 13% higher repeat rates, typically larger basket sizes. But I think even going back to what Chris was commenting earlier, this is really for us more about a traffic driver, and for retailers more about a traffic driver that gets that consumer back into the store more often. So we have seen, more likely to recommend to a friend, more likely to have more positive associations with a brand if they offer payment types that, customers need and want, and if they offer their preferred payment type. So there's kind of this overall positive halo. But really what we're seeing kind of that driving is, again, that repeat usage rate, which we think is really powerful and builds, brand affinity, builds a connection, and has the ability to build a basket as well, getting that traffic into the stores.
Yeah, I mean, 13%, that's, I mean, when we start talking about 90% of the sales base in retail, like 13% repeat rate starts to have a pretty material impact in terms of people's financials if they're starting to think about taking this in store. What I'm curious, what customer anecdotes or case studies can you share where you guys have brought this to life and seen a lot of success at this point?
Yeah, we've seen it several different retailers in terms of the omni-channel piece. And so I think, with Target, we've seen really good, pickup and adoption, both online and in store. Pure Hockey's a really, great retailer, a little bit more niche retailer, but, being Minnesota, Minnesotans will appreciate the hockey piece where, we started as an online business, but then we also launched this in store for, their businesses and their retail shops. And, that's, again, what we're seeing in terms of the frequency numbers. And so it's available and can be made available for most, retailers in store. And, honestly, a big part of kind of our conversation here is I think you guys are seeing this as basically just another step of digital adoption, but happens to be retail. And so, again, I go back to like, this is solving the same pain point as it has been solving online, which is providing access to, a new customer base. That customer base is still, 90% of their transactions are happening in store. And so by providing this, we see also a new customer that's traveling to, and then, shopping, at these locations.
So, and the other point this brings up for me is, and we talked about this in the beginning with the recent announcement that you guys have, is that there's a ton of consolidation happening in this industry. And so a lot of what we're going to see here, I would hypothesize, is now it's going to be about how do retailers in store, get adoption for buy now, pay later, in what they're offering to their customers in a physical store experience, almost in the same way of like back in the old days, like, do you take Visa? Do you take American Express? Right. You take Discover? Like
what Paul was saying in the last episode.
Yeah. Paul, that is what we're talking about here, right? Like this is a new form of credit that is, quite honestly, in my opinion, a much better vehicle to use. It's financed partially by the retailer versus solely by the consumer in general. And, is that what we're going for here? Is that where this is going to play out?
I think we're seeing, and I can use an online example that I think still applies in store, but, there's research out there that said, 40% of the reason people are walking away from transactions are because their preferred method of payment is not available.
Right.
And so I think that's very applicable in store too. And the unique part of in store, which is the reason we don't always think about this, is because we think, well, if someone's at the store, then they've already made their decision around payments, or they've already made their decision around what they're going to buy. And I'm not sure that's entirely true. I also think the awareness of payment method has only increased. I think it's, whether it's BNPL, whether it's, coming out of the great financial recession, I think consumers and younger generation are much more, intelligent and smart about kind of how they're paying. Yeah. And so again, we've been slower on the adoption curve within retail because we're like, well, if they're in the store, they're going to buy anyways. And I think we need to reframe that and say that, well, like, A, how do we get them into the store? And then two, for me, it's most important to say, like, is your payment stack, resonating with your customer and with your growth audience. And so it may be working, phenomenal for your current audience, but are you attracting a customer base in store that's not shopping you, right? They're only shopping you online because maybe there's only certain payment types available online and it's not available in store. And so they're no wonder they're not kind of coming into your stores. And so I think it's a little bit of a reframe. Like I always talk about payments as a relationship builder,
right?
With your customer. And we see like from the studies that, payment type is as important as price and brand and even product in some cases. And so if the consumer in their mindset is thinking about that, then being able to reflect that and then advertise it and market it, whether it's, Sezzle or, Apple Pay or another payment type, I think retailers are still a little bit behind on this journey. And I would say we're seeing the adoption in e-commerce. And I think, now's the time to really do that within, in store.
Yeah. Especially when credit's involved in that transaction. Like how you think about, I can think back in. We used to talk about this on the show 3 years ago. We used to talk about like you and I would make decisions on where to go based on who had Apple Pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And now it's prevalent because of the pandemic, but like that made a huge difference for me prior.
For sure. And I think makes a bigger difference to this next generation of shopper too.
Especially if you can do this.
Right.
Like, if this gets widespread, like you think about gas, groceries, everything, like where you could eventually use it, like it's crazy.
Chris, do you think that for the next generation of customer, do you think that the buy now pay later offering is enough of like an incentive to that generation that they can break it up into 4 payments, that buy now pay later providers in general will not need to go to any sort of loyalty programs? Like I'm thinking about the points that you get for a credit card. Like, do you see buy now pay later providers eventually evolving into like, hey, you get cash back, or you get longer payment terms, or you get 6 weeks that you can pay this off instead of 4, or whatever it might be? Or do you think it's just like, this is just a better method of payment for that, especially for that next generation?
I think we're going to have to see. There's certainly, BNPLs that are offering rewards.
Okay.
I look at it personally as it's already solving a problem that consumers have. And so just BNPL as a product or as a, option is really solved, right? Like that's where innovation comes from. Innovation comes from really solving a pain point. And I think it's doing that. And so we're still like very early days compared to some of the markets that are, I'd say more saturated in terms of BNPL. So if you look at Australia, if you look at, Sweden, if you look at some, even, other countries, they're further along in their adoption curve in terms of BNPL. We're still pretty early, right? I think it's about 2% of payment volume is what we're seeing going through BNPL. Overall, in some of these more mature countries, you get to about 10%. And so it's still a ways to go in terms of that, maturity of the market. I think as that kind of continues to evolve, you start talking about more of like, where does loyalty fit in? Where do rewards programs fit in? I think right now it's just really solving a problem, and it's not necessarily, a requirement, because it's kind of being looked at as an overall tender type. And is this tender type more valuable than other tender types?
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, there's still more foundation to be built, but you could easily see that, evolving in that direction too. All right. Well, Chris, that was awesome. I love that. I love putting you on the spot too, to see how this thing worked in live time. That was a lot of fun. If people are watching this and they're like, hey, we want to learn how to do this, how to bring BNPL in store, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah. By the way, I was not nervous at all because it's all the product and engineering team that's crushing it in terms of
that boy. Awesome.
So, not me at all. Just want to make sure credits where it should be. Please reach out. This is always fun chatting with you too. Really, really appreciate you probing a little bit more on in-store and traffic. Think about this as an affiliate driver is kind of a probing, interesting way to think about it, and bringing in a new customer. So always happy to talk anything payments, retail, Sezzle, et cetera. People can reach out to me on LinkedIn, pretty responsive and really, really good. Just please connect and send a message, and happy to respond on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. That wraps us up. Thanks to Chris Bixby for sitting down with us today, and to all of you for joining us live and posting your questions on LinkedIn. And as always, be careful out there.